It started on a night when the rain wouldn't stop. The wind howled outside like something was broken in the world, and inside a small wooden cabin, a single father sat by the fire, watching the flames dance against the shadow of his son's laughter echoing in his mind. That laughter, once constant, had been fading lately. Ever since Emma passed away, Daniel's world had turned quiet. He'd traded the city lights for the solitude of the countryside, raising his 8-year-old son, Noah, far from everything that reminded him of what he lost. He thought the silence would heal him. But healing never came easily. Not until the night a woman in a soaked business suit knocked on his door, shivering, lost, and asking for warmth. She was no ordinary visitor. Her voice trembled as she said, "My car broke down. The storm. I didn't know where else to go." Her hair was damp, her heels muddy, and yet there was something striking about her presence, elegance colliding with exhaustion. Daniel hesitated. He didn't let strangers in, not anymore. But something about her eyes, lonely, restless, made him step aside. "Come in," he said quietly. She nodded, her lips pale from the cold hours past. The storm refused to fade, and she sat near the fire, clutching a cup of tea with trembling fingers. He noticed the faint scar on her wrist, the kind that told a story words never could. "You're not from around here," he said softly. She gave a tired chuckle. "No. I'm supposed to be in New York by morning. But I guess fate had other plans." They spoke little after that, only the crackle of the fire filling the silence. She looked around the small cabin, books stacked by the wall, a child's drawings pinned near the window. "You live here alone?" she asked. "With my son," he replied. "He's asleep upstairs." She nodded. "You must love it here. Peaceful." Daniel looked into the fire. "Peaceful, yes. But lonely too." Then the thunder roared again. The wind pushed cold air through the cracks in the window, and she shivered violently. Her voice came barely above a whisper. "Do you mind if I sit closer?" He nodded, shifting slightly. She hesitated, then said, almost apologetically, "Can I slip under your blanket? Just for warmth." Daniel froze. The world seemed to pause with him. She noticed his stillness and added quickly, I didn't mean," but he shook his head gently. "It's fine." The blanket stretched just enough to cover them both. Her body trembled at first, but as minutes passed, the shaking eased. For the first time in years, Daniel felt someone's warmth against his shoulder. And in that quiet, broken cabin, two lonely hearts started to thaw. When the morning light slipped through the curtains, she was gone. Only a note remained on the table. "Thank you for last night. You reminded me what kindness feels like." Beneath her neat handwriting was a name, Clara Reynolds. Daniel blinked in surprise. That name, it wasn't just familiar. It was famous. Clara Reynolds, the youngest CEO of Reynolds Industries, a woman often seen in headlines for billion-dollar deals, not for getting stranded in the woods. Weeks went by. Life went on to school runs, odd jobs, the quiet hum of routine, but Daniel couldn't shake the memory of her. And then, one morning, a black car stopped outside his cabin. He opened the door to see her again, dressed not in a drenched suit this time, but in confidence. "I couldn't stop thinking about that night," she said. "Can I come in?" Their conversation that day felt different, softer, warmer. Clara confessed how her life had become a cycle of meetings and loneliness. "Everyone listens to me," she said, "but no one hears me." Daniel smiled sadly. "I know what that feels like." Over the following weeks, she started visiting more often, sometimes bringing Noah small gifts, sometimes just sitting quietly by the fire. The cabin became less quiet, the laughter returned, and slowly, Daniel realized what was happening. The woman who ruled boardrooms had found peace in his silence, but then, reality came knocking. Her company was crumbling under pressure. Shareholders demanded her full return to the city. "Come with me," she said one evening. "You and Noah. I'll make sure you're taken care of." Daniel looked at her, torn. "You think money will fix what's broken in me?" he asked gently. "I can't live in your world, Clara. You don't belong in mine." Her eyes glistened. "Maybe that's why we need each other." The next day, she left. The sound of her car fading into the distance felt like losing something he didn't realize he needed. For months, there was silence again until one snowy evening, a familiar knock echoed through the cabin. When Daniel opened the door, she stood there once more, without her suit, without her armor, just herself. "I walked away from the company," she said, her voice trembling. "They told me I was crazy. But the only thing that ever made me feel alive was here." She stepped closer, tears in her eyes. "Can I slip under your blanket again?" This time, Daniel didn't freeze. He took her hand and led her inside, where the fire still burned, waiting. The nights that followed were no longer lonely. Clara learned the rhythm of small-town life, the sound of Noah's laughter, the smell of morning coffee, the peace that comes from watching the sunrise instead of another stock report. And Daniel learned that sometimes, love doesn't arrive with fanfare or grand gestures, it arrives in the middle of a storm, cold and trembling, asking softly for warmth. By spring, the cabin wasn't a place of healing anymore, it was a place of living. Clara found happiness not in skyscrapers but in the simplicity of home. And one evening, as the three of them sat together watching the sunset, she whispered, "You were right, Daniel. Money can't fix what's broken, but love can." He smiled, pulling the blanket around all three of them. "Then let's never let go of it again." And as the fire flickered one last time against the window, the world outside seemed quiet, not because it was empty, but because it was finally whole.